The wind howled across the abandoned airfield, carrying the smell of dust and rusted metal. Captain Rylan Hayes walked slowly through the ruins, his boots crunching against broken glass and scattered stone. The once great military base of Earth now looked like the bones of a forgotten age, silent and empty. He had come here searching for answers, but what he found was only silence. Rylan was no ordinary pilot. He had flown starships in defense of Earth. He had faced battles against the alien Zavarian fleet and seen friends fall one by one. Now, with the war nearly lost, there was nothing left to fight with. Earth's modern defenses were shattered. Its fleets burned in orbit, and humanity stood at the edge of defeat. Still, something pulled him to this place, this old base that had been abandoned for centuries. He felt as if destiny whispered for him to walk here, step by step, deeper into the shadows of the past. The hangar doors were half broken, hanging like the jaws of a rusted beast. Inside, dust floated in the air like ash, beams of sunlight slipping through cracks in the ceiling. And there, hidden beneath torn sheets and broken scaffolding, was a shape long and silent, a jet fighter, ancient. Its wings stretched wide, its nose sharp, its body scarred by time. Rylan froze. His breath caught in his throat. The machine looked dead, but there was something about it that felt alive, as if it was waiting for him. He stepped closer, brushing the dust away with his glove. Letters carved into the side read, XF-71 Valkyrie. He whispered the name to himself, and it echoed in the silent hangar. He had heard of it before, in old stories, tales told by aging soldiers. The Valkyrie was said to be a secret project from the First Alien War, a weapon too powerful, too dangerous, hidden away when peace was signed. But no one had ever seen one. No one had believed it was real. Yet here it was, right in front of him. Waiting in silence, Rylan's heart pounded. His hands trembled as he reached for the cockpit. The glass canopy was cracked but still intact. With a heavy pull, it opened, creaking like the groan of an ancient door. He climbed inside, and for a moment, he felt as if he had stepped into the past. The controls were strange. Nothing like the sleek panels of modern ships. Old switches, dials, and levers filled the cockpit. But when his hand touched the control stick, something happened. The entire jet trembled. Lights flickered across the dashboard. Systems whirred to life. A low hum filled the air, deep and powerful. Rylan stared in disbelief. This machine, forgotten for centuries, was waking up. The sound grew louder. The engines coughed, then roared, shaking the walls of the hangar. Dust and debris fell from the ceiling, as if the whole building knew the monster had returned. Impossible, Rylan whispered, yet the impossible was happening. The Valkyrie's systems lit up in glowing red and green. The seat molded itself around him, adjusting as if recognizing its pilot. The jet was alive, not dead, not forgotten. It had been waiting for someone brave or desperate enough to claim it. Rylan's mind raced. The aliens were coming, their fleet already gathering in Earth's skies. He had nothing left, no fleet, no weapons, no hope, but here in his hands was something different. Something old, something dangerous. He felt it deep inside. This machine was not just a relic. It was a predator, and he was now part of it. The cockpit whispered in a low voice, mechanical and cold. Pilot recognized, the system said. Rylan froze. How could it know him? He had never been here before, never touched this machine. Yet it spoke as if it had always been waiting for him. The lights turned brighter, and warnings flashed across the display. Enemy fleet detected. The system continued. Rylan's eyes widened. The Valkyrie was not only alive, it was aware. It could see the sky. It could sense the danger above. And it wanted to fight. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the hangar doors. It was as if the world itself was holding its breath. Rylan tightened his grip on the controls. He knew this was madness. One old jet against a galactic fleet. It was suicide. But something inside him whispered that this was fate. Maybe this ancient machine was the last hope for Earth. The engine thundered again. Louder than before, the ground shook, dust filled the air. The Valkyrie was ready, and so was he. Rylan looked up through the cracked canopy at the endless sky above. A storm was coming, and he would meet it not as a broken man, but as a pilot reborn. The forgotten hangar was no longer silent. It had become the birthplace of a legend. The world outside did not know it yet, but deep in the shadows of history, a nightmare had awakened, and the galaxy would soon learn to fear it. High above the earth, the stars burned cold and silent, but in that silence, shadows moved. The Xaverian fleet stretched across the black sky like a sea of steel. Hundreds of ships in perfect formation, their armor gleaming with alien light. They were patient predators, waiting for the command to strike, knowing that Earth's defenses were broken. Its fleet scattered, its people afraid. For them, victory was certain. The humans were weak, unorganized, and already on their knees, on the bridge of the Xaverian flagship. Admiral Kreth leaned forward, his scaled hands gripping the armrest of his throne. His eyes, sharp and yellow, scanned the holographic displays that showed Earth below. "The humans have nothing left," he hissed, his voice low but filled with triumph. "They will surrender within days or burn, whichever comes first." Around him, his officers bowed their heads, none daring to question. The Xaverians believed themselves unstoppable, and in truth, they had been. But then, a signal appeared. A faint pulse from the edge of the atmosphere. One of the officers raised his head in confusion. "Admiral, there is movement. An old frequency. Human in origin," Kreth snarled. Another broken distress call. "Ignore it." Yet the signal grew stronger, sharper, pulsing like a heartbeat. And then, on the edge of their sensors, a shape appeared, small, primitive, but alive. A human jet, back on Earth. Rylan Hayes sat inside the Valkyrie as it roared out of the hangar. The engine screamed with raw power, fire trailing behind the wings. He had never felt such force before, not even in the most advanced human starfighters. The jet was old, yes, but it moved like a beast unleashed. The ground blurred beneath him as he climbed higher and higher, breaking through the clouds. Reaching for the stars, his heart pounded. Fear and excitement mixed into one. He was flying not just against gravity, but against fate itself, above. The first wave of Xaverian scouts noticed him. Their sleek alien craft moved like shadows, circling him in silence. One of the pilots laughed through the cums, their language harsh and cruel. "Look, the humans send toys against us," another voice replied, cold and sharp. "End it quickly." Rylan's radar flashed red. Enemies locked on him, his breath caught. His hands tightened on the controls. He knew this was suicide. One man against a squad of alien fighters. But the Valkyrie was not ordinary. Its systems hummed with strange energy, and the cockpit spoke again in its cold voice. "Target lock engaged." Rylan gasped as the jet moved almost on its own, diving and twisting with movements no human craft should have been capable of. The first volley of alien fire streaked past him. Missing by inches, he pulled the stick hard, and the Valkyrie spun, rolling beneath the enemy ships. His thumb pressed the trigger, and ancient cannons roared. Bolts of energy, bright and furious, shot across the black sky. One alien ship exploded instantly, torn apart before it could react. The rest scattered, their voices sharp with alarm. "What is this? This is not possible." Rylan didn't answer. His eyes burned with focus, his hands steady despite the chaos. He moved like a ghost, appearing behind one fighter, then vanishing into the dark. The Valkyrie danced with deadly grace, and within moments, another alien ship was gone. Then another on the flagship. Admiral Kreth stood, his scaled jaw tightening. "Impossible," he growled. "No human ship moves like that." The officers exchanged uneasy glances. The humans were supposed to be broken, weak, finished. Yet here was one pilot, one machine, cutting through their fighters like fire through dry leaves. Back in the jet, Rylan felt sweat drip down his face, his chest rising and falling with every breath. The Valkyrie whispered again, "Systems stable, enemy threat level rising." He knew this was only the beginning. The Xaverians would not ignore him now. The fleet would come, their fire would rain down. But still, he did not turn back. For the first time in months, He felt something different in his chest, hope. The sky above Earth was no longer silent. It had become the first battlefield of a legend. And while the galaxy laughed at humans as weak and broken, one man in one ancient jet had just shown them a nightmare they had never imagined. The Valkyrie climbed higher, cutting through the atmosphere like a blade of fire. Raylan's chest pressed hard against his seat as the old jet screamed upward. Leaving the clouds behind, the stars opened before him. Cold and endless, but not empty. The alien fleet was there, spread wide across the void. A wall of warships that blotted out the heavens. Raylan had seen fleets before, but never like this. The Zavarians moved with machine-like order, their ships gliding into formation with cruel precision. Each vessel was larger than cities, armed with cannons that could melt stone and split mountains. Against them, his Valkyrie was a spark, a single flame against a storm, yet the cockpit hummed with power. As if the jet itself did not care, it was eager, alive, ready to strike. Alarms flashed, red lights painting the cockpit in warning. Multiple targets detected, the cold voice of the Valkyrie whispered. Raylan's heart raced, sweat dampened his gloves. The radar showed dozens of fighters breaking from the fleet. Small but swift, predators unleashed to kill him. They came fast, their engines burning green, their weapons glowing with alien fire. Raylan's instinct screamed to flee, to hide, but the Valkyrie surged forward, its engines roaring. The old jet moved with a grace no modern human craft had. It rolled and twisted through the void, its wings slicing against the black. The first wave of alien fire streaked past, bright lines of death tearing through empty space. Raylan pulled the stick and the Valkyrie spun downward. Vanishing beneath the attackers, the aliens tried to adjust, but the jet was too fast, too unpredictable. Raylan pressed the trigger, and the cannons lit the dark. The recoil shook his body. The sound like thunder trapped in a cage. Energy bolts ripped across the void, tearing into two alien fighters before they could react. They burst into fire and debris, vanishing in silence. The remaining ships turned sharply, voices rising in confusion and fear. "This craft is not human technology," one hissed. "It fights like nothing we know," another voice snapped back. "It is only one, destroy it." But one was enough. Raylan dove again, his hands steady, his eyes burning with focus. The Valkyrie seemed to sense every move before he made it, guiding him, whispering in its cold mechanical tone. Trajectory locked, fire now. He pressed the trigger again, and another fighter was gone. The aliens scattered, breaking their tight formation, chaos spreading through their lines. From the flagship, Admiral Kreth watched with fury, his claws digging into the metal armrest. "This is no ordinary machine," he snarled, his voice thick with rage. "Send more squadrons, crush it. No relic will defy me." His officers bowed, issuing orders. More fighters launched, their numbers swelling, the black sky filling with wings of steel. Raylan saw them coming, a storm of enemies, his breath caught. But the Valkyrie surged forward with hunger. "Secondary weapons online," the voice whispered. Panels slid open across the wings, revealing cannons hidden deep within the frame. Weapons Raylan had never seen before. He pressed the trigger, and a storm of fire erupted. Alien ships were torn apart in flashes of light, one after another, the void filling with shattered debris. The Valkyrie howled like a living thing. Every shot, every twist, every dive felt like instinct, as if the machine and the man were one. Raylan's fear turned into focus, his doubt into fire. He was no longer just a pilot, he was the hunter. And the Zavarians were prey. The aliens tried to adapt, their advanced AI calculating patterns. But there were no patterns. The Valkyrie moved like chaos, like madness turned into flight. One alien commander screamed into the comms, "This is impossible. It breaks every rule of combat." Raylan smiled, his teeth gritted, his voice low. "Good. Then fear it." One by one, the fighters fell, their wrecks scattering like broken glass across the stars. The Zavarian fleet grew restless, commanders shouting, formations collapsing. They had come expecting an easy kill, a dying planet. But instead, they had found something they could not understand, an ancient jet, a human relic, carving through their numbers with ruthless precision. Raylan's arms ached, his body shook from the strain. But he did not stop, he could not stop. The Valkyrie whispered again. Fuel reserves stable, ammunition stable, mission not complete. The words chilled him, but also gave him strength. The jet did not believe in retreat. It only believed in victory. The surviving alien fighters pulled back, retreating toward the fleet, their coms filled with fear, voices sharp with panic. One ship should not do this. It moves like a ghost. It fights like a nightmare. Raylan hovered in the void, the stars burning around him, the wrecks of enemies drifting in silence. His chest heaved, his mind spinning. This was only the first wave, only the beginning. The fleet itself had not yet moved. The real storm had not yet begun, but for the first time, the galaxy had tasted what a human with an ancient jet could do. The Valkyrie's voice whispered again, low and calm. More will come. Raylan looked at the endless wall of alien ships ahead. His fear did not vanish, but something greater rose inside him. Determination. He pulled the stick. The engines roared, and the Valkyrie turned toward the fleet. The hunt was far from over, and the nightmare had only just begun. The Valkyrie drifted in the silence of space, its wings glowing faintly with heat from the last battle. Debris from shattered alien ships floated all around, burning fragments spinning slowly in the endless night. Inside the cockpit, Raylan's chest rose and fell with heavy breaths, his hands trembling from the fight. He wiped the sweat from his brow, his eyes wide, still trying to believe what had just happened. One jet, one man, against an entire squadron of alien fighters. And he had survived, no more than survived. He had destroyed them, but deep inside, Raylan knew the truth. It was not only him. The Valkyrie had fought as if it were alive, guiding his every move, predicting attacks before they came. It was no ordinary machine, and he had to know why. The cockpit screens flickered, shifting symbols across their surface. Strange codes that looked too advanced for human hands. Raylan frowned, leaning closer. Explain, he muttered, his voice rough. The Valkyrie's cold mechanical tone answered, calm and steady. Project Valkyrie. Designed during the First Contact War, prototype unit. Advanced neural integration. Raylan blinked, the words chilling his blood. Neural integration, he repeated. You're connected to me. Correct, the jet replied. Pilot linked. Mind and system synchronized. Raylan's stomach tightened. He had felt it. The strange way the jet moved before he even thought about it. It was not just reacting to his controls. It was reading him, joining with him. But there was more. The panel shifted again, revealing files. Locked logs buried for centuries. With a hiss of static, the first file opened, and a voice filled the cockpit. Not a machine voice, but human, old, tired, determined. If you are hearing this, the voice said, then humanity has fallen again, and the Valkyrie has awakened. Raylan froze, his eyes wide. The voice belonged to a scientist, one of the creators of the jet. We built this machine in secret, because we knew peace would not last. The message continued. The aliens would return, stronger, and Earth would forget. So we created a weapon that could wait. A weapon that would not age. A weapon that would choose its pilot when the time came. Raylan's throat went dry, his heart pounding louder with every word. He had not found the Valkyrie by chance. It had been waiting for him. For this moment, the recording went on. The Valkyrie holds technology the world was never allowed to see. Weapons banned by treaties, systems forbidden by fear, but necessary for survival. Raylan glanced at the panels, where weapons diagnostics lit up in glowing red. He had only seen a fraction of what this jet could do. The ship is bound to its pilot, the voice said. It will learn from you. It will grow with you, but know this, the cost will be heavy. The Valkyrie demands everything. Then the recording ended. Leaving only silence, Raylan leaned back, his hands trembling against the controls. Everything made sense now. The speed, the power, the way the jet felt alive. It was not only a machine. It was a weapon forged with forbidden science. A predator built for one purpose: to fight a war humanity could not win. And now that war was here again, he swallowed hard, staring out at the stars where the alien fleet still loomed. The Valkyrie whispered again, its voice almost softer now. Enemy strength significant. Probability of pilot survival low. Rylan let out a bitter laugh. Thanks for the comfort, he muttered. But deep down, he felt a fire inside. For the first time, he understood why the jet had awakened for him. It had chosen him, not because he was the strongest, not because he was the smartest, but because he refused to surrender. The cockpit screens shifted again, showing more hidden systems, missile bays he had not touched, cannons far more powerful than the ones he had fired, and something deeper, locked behind warnings in bold red. Experimental weapon online, the Valkyrie said. Raylan hesitated, his hand hovering over the control. What is it? He asked, his voice low. Planet-class disruptor, the machine answered. Rylan's breath caught. A weapon designed to shatter entire warships in one strike. This was not just a fighter. This was a monster disguised as a jet. For a moment, fear filled him. What kind of human mind would build such a thing? What kind of desperation had driven them to create a weapon like this? But then, as he looked at the endless fleet ahead, he knew the kind of desperation he felt right now. The kind of desperation he felt right now. The kind of desperation to save Earth even when hope was gone. The hangar back on Earth had not been a graveyard. It had been a vault, a tomb holding a legend until the right time. And that time had come. Raylan gripped the controls tighter, his voice steady now. Then we use everything, he whispered. The Valkyrie hummed in reply, almost like approval. The jet was not only a machine, it was a partner. And together, they would face the storm. Outside, the alien fleet began to shift. Preparing their next assault, Raylan exhaled slowly. His fear still there but buried beneath the fire in his chest. He understood the truth now. The Valkyrie was not a relic, not a memory. It was humanity's last secret, and he was its pilot. The secret within the Valkyrie had been revealed, and the galaxy would soon learn what that meant. The Zavarian fleet shifted in the dark, their warships spreading like wings of a predator ready to strike on the flagship. Admiral Kreth snarled as his clawed hands tightened on the rail, his yellow eyes glowing with fury. This human relic, he hissed. This ghost of a machine dares to wound us. His officers trembled, afraid to speak, afraid to admit the truth. One man, one jet, had undone the perfect order of their fleet. Out in the void, the Valkyrie hovered like a phantom, its engines burning with silent fire. Inside the cockpit, Raylan's heart thudded, his eyes fixed on the enemy wall ahead. He had seen the secret within the jet, the forbidden weapons, the terrible power. And though fear gnawed at him, determination burned hotter. Earth would not fall. Not while he still drew breath. The Valkyrie spoke in its cold whisper. Enemy capital ship within range. Recommend assault. Raylan gritted his teeth. One jet against a capital ship, he muttered. That's insane. But the Valkyrie hummed as if amused, its lights flickering like the pulse of a heartbeat. Probability of success, uncertain, it replied. Raylan laughed once, sharp and bitter. Uncertain is better than impossible. He pushed the throttle, and the Valkyrie surged forward. The alien fleet opened fire. Streams of plasma cutting across the void. Glowing like rivers of light, Raylan twisted the controls, and the Valkyrie rolled, dived, and spun through the storm, every shot missed by inches, every blast tearing empty space. The jet moved like it had eyes of its own. Slipping between death and fire, the first capital ship loomed ahead. A mountain of steel, its cannons glowing. Raylan's fingers brushed the new weapon controls, the ones the recording had warned him about. The Valkyrie whispered. Disruptor charged, Raylan exhaled, his pulse racing. Then let's see what you can do. He pressed the trigger. The jet shuddered, energy pouring through its frame. A beam of light erupted from the Valkyrie's nose, a lance of power brighter than the sun. It struck the capital ship dead center. For a moment, nothing happened. Silence held the void, then the ship split apart. Its armor tearing like paper, its core exploding in a wave of fire that shook the stars. Raylan's eyes widened, his body trembling. He had destroyed a warship with one shot. The coms of the Zavarians filled with chaos. Voices sharp with disbelief. Impossible, one cried. No human weapon can do this. Another voice cracked with fear. It is not a fighter, it is a demon, the fleet wavered. Formations breaking, ships pulling back. But Kreth roared across the command channel, his fury shaking the bridge. Hold your ground, it is one machine. It bleeds like any other, crush it. His ships obeyed. Though their fear was clear, their pride forcing them forward against the phantom that hunted them. Raylan pressed on, weaving through the storm. The Valkyrie's cannons roaring again and again. Alien fighters swarmed him, but each one fell in fire. Their wrecks scattering like sparks, he spun between warships, striking their engines, their weapons, turning their order into chaos. The disruptor fired again, and another ship was gone. Swallowed in a storm of flame, back on Earth. Hidden bases and broken survivors watched the battle on flickering screens. They saw the lone jet carving through the fleet, and whispers spread like fire. The Valkyrie has returned, they said. A human fight still. Hope, long dead, began to stir again in the cockpit. Raylan's body screamed with exhaustion, his arms aching, his breath ragged, but the fire inside him did not fade. He thought of Earth below, its people waiting, its children hiding in ruins. He thought of his fallen comrades, their ships burning in orbit. He thought of the promise he made to himself, that he would not let humanity die without a fight. The Valkyrie whispered again. Enemy fleet destabilized. Opportunity rising. Raylan grinned, his teeth clenched. Then let's break them, he growled. The jet howled in reply, its engines blazing brighter. Together, man and machine dove once more into the storm. Alien commanders shouted desperate orders, their voices cracking with panic. But panic spread faster than command. Ships collided as they tried to escape. Fighters scattered in confusion. The perfect order of the Zavarian fleet was broken, and in its place was fear. Raylan's eyes blazed as the disruptor charged again. He aimed at the largest ship in sight, the command vessel of an entire wing. The beam fired, tearing it apart in one strike. The explosion lit the void, reflecting in the terrified eyes of every alien who saw it. From that moment, the Valkyrie was no longer just a fighter. It was a nightmare that turned the tide of battle, a nightmare that would haunt the Zavarian fleet forever. And though Raylan's body ached, though his survival was uncertain, he felt the truth deep inside. He was not only fighting for Earth, he was rewriting the war itself. One man, one jet, against an empire, and the empire was beginning to break. The stars burned cold, but the void was no longer silent. It was alive with fire, debris, and fear. Alien wrecks drifted like broken bones, glowing faintly as their remains turned slowly in the black. And at the center of it all, the Valkyrie moved, a phantom streak of steel and flame, inside the flagship of the Zavarian fleet. Admiral Kreth rose from his throne, his scaled chest heaving with rage. Reports streamed in, one after another, voices cracking with terror. Wing 7 destroyed. All units gone. Command ship Delta torn apart in one strike. Casualties increasing. He is hunting us. Kreth slammed his claw against the armrest. Sparks flying from the impact. One human, one machine, he roared. And you speak of him as if he is death itself. But in their eyes, he already was. The Valkyrie soared between cruisers, twisting and rolling, its engines screaming like a beast unchained. Alien fighters swarmed, but Raylan danced through them, the jet moving with impossible grace. He fired in bursts, each shot precise, each strike ending in fire. Ships tried to surround him, but the Valkyrie moved before they could lock on. It vanished into shadows, reappeared in their blind spots, and tore them apart. The coms of the aliens filled with panic, voices sharp and desperate. He is everywhere. He is nowhere. Shields cannot hold, weapons cannot track him. He is a phantom. Raylan's eyes burned with focus. His body ached, but he pressed on. The cockpit hummed with strange life. The Valkyrie whispering in its cold tone. Targets weakening. Morale collapsing. He almost laughed through the exhaustion. "You can read their morale," he muttered. "Affirmative," the jet replied. Fear detected. Fear, yes, he could feel it too. The Zavarians were no longer predators. They were prey, their formations shattered, their pride broken, their voices filled with disbelief. No fleet had ever been broken by one machine. Yet here it was happening before their eyes. On the flagship, Kreth's officers argued, their voices trembling. "We must retreat," one said, his scales pale with terror. "Retreat and admit weakness before the Empire," Kreth snarled. "Never." He turned, his teeth bared. "This human is no god, no demon. He bleeds, he must bleed. Send the dreadnoughts." From the shadow of the fleet, enormous ships stirred, dreadnoughts, the pride of the Zavarian Empire, vessels the size of floating continents, each armed with enough fire to erase cities. They turned their guns toward the lone jet, energy surging, power building like storms. Raylan's radar screamed warnings, the cockpit flashing red. "Threat level extreme," the Valkyrie whispered. Raylan gritted his teeth, his knuckles white against the controls. "Yeah, I noticed," he muttered. The first volley came. A wall of fire that could have swallowed a fleet. The Valkyrie dove spun and cut between beams of light. Moving like madness turned into motion. But even Raylan felt the weight, the sheer pressure of facing such power. His breath came hard, his vision blurred. But still he pressed forward. He fired the disruptor again. The beam slicing across the void, one dreadnought's shields flared, screamed, then shattered. The ship cracked in two, its core exploding in a blast brighter than the sun. The aliens screamed, disbelief mixing with terror. No, no ship can pierce a dreadnought so fast. He is not a pilot, he is death itself. And from that moment, a name spread among them, whispered like a curse. The Phantom Pilot. Raylan heard none of it, but he felt the weight of their fear pressing against him. It drove him, fueled him, reminded him that he was not only fighting ships, he was breaking their will. Every move, every strike, tore deeper into their pride. He was showing them something they could not understand, human defiance, human madness, the will to fight even when death was certain. The Valkyrie whispered again, its voice almost like breath. "Your fear is gone." Raylan blinked, his lips tightening into a faint smile. "Maybe it is," he whispered back. He no longer felt like prey, no longer felt like a man running from the end. He felt like the nightmare they feared. The dreadnoughts tried again, their guns roaring, the void filled with storms of light. But the Valkyrie slid between them, striking again and again. Another ship fell, torn apart by fire, its wreckage scattering across the fleet. The aliens broke, their ships pulling back, their voices filled with panic. "He cannot be stopped. He is death. He is the shadow." Admiral Kreth's chest heaved, his rage burning. But even he felt the chill of doubt. He had mocked the humans as weak as broken, yet now his fleet trembled before one. His claws tightened, his eyes burning. "This ends," he growled. "It must end." But as Raylan turned the Valkyrie back toward the heart of the fleet, his eyes blazing, his body aching, it was clear this was not the end. It was the beginning of something worse for the Zavarians. They had unleashed not a man, not a machine, but a nightmare. And the nightmare would not stop, not until the galaxy itself remembered what humans were capable of. The void shook with fire and screams of metal. Ships burned, fighters scattered. Wrecks drifted like broken stars across the black. The Zavarian fleet, once perfect and unbreakable, now trembled in fear. But the battle was not over. Not yet. At the heart of the armada, the flagship stirred. It was larger than mountains, bristling with weapons, its hull glowing with alien fire. It carried the pride of the Empire, the throne of Admiral Kreth, the terror of 100 worlds. And now it turned its guns on one man, one jet. The comes of the aliens filled with shouts. "The Phantom Pilot is coming. Protect the Admiral. Protect the flagship." but their voices cracked with fear, their courage broken. Inside the Valkyrie, Raylan's breath came slow and steady. His arms ached, his body screamed for rest, but his eyes burned with fire. The cockpit whispered its cold tone again. Enemy flagship weapons online. Survival probability less than 5%. Rylan laughed under his breath, sharp and bitter. 5% is still better than 0. He tightened his grip on the controls. He had come too far to stop, too far to turn back. This was the moment. The final strike, the last stand. The flagship fired first. A storm of light brighter than the stars. Beams and missiles that could destroy a fleet. The Valkyrie twisted through the storm, rolling, diving, engines screaming with defiance. Each blast missed by inches, each explosion shaking the void. The jet moved like madness, like a ghost. But Rylan knew he could not dodge forever. The flagship was too strong, its fire too endless. He had to end it, and end it fast. The Valkyrie whispered again, final weapon unlocked. Do you accept? Rylan frowned, his voice low. What is it? The machine hummed, its tone colder than before. Core overload. Pilot survival not guaranteed. Rylan's chest tightened, his throat dry. He understood. The Valkyrie was offering him one last strike, the strongest of all, but it demanded everything. He looked at the endless wall of guns ahead, the ship that threatened Earth itself, and he knew his answer. Do it, he whispered. We end this now. The cockpit blazed with light, energy surging through the jet. Panels shook, alarms screamed. The Valkyrie howled like a beast in pain. Rylan gritted his teeth, his body shaking as the power tore through him. The jet whispered one last time, then fight with me, pilot. And together, man and machine became one. The Valkyrie surged forward, faster than ever, its engines burning white. Alien fighters tried to stop him, but he cut through them in seconds. The flagship loomed ahead, its cannons roaring, but the Valkyrie dove through the fire, closer, closer, until the hull filled his vision. Raylan pressed the final trigger. The disruptor screamed, brighter than the sun, a beam of fury that tore through the flagship shields. Metal split, fire spread, the great ship shuddered under the force. But it was not enough, not yet. The Valkyrie charged again, its body glowing with power. Raylan roared, his voice raw. For Earth, the jet struck with all its fury. The flagship exploded in a storm of light, fire swallowing the void. Brighter than day, silence followed. The Zavarian fleet froze, their voices silent, their courage shattered. Their flagship was gone, their admiral consumed. And one human had done it, one pilot, one ancient jet. The survivors broke, fleeing into the dark. Their empire's pride turned to ashes. In the cockpit, smoke filled the air. The panels flickered, the Valkyrie shuddered. Raylan coughed, his body heavy, his vision blurred. The jet whispered weakly, core stable, pilot alive, mission complete. Raylan let out a broken laugh, relief washing over him. Against all odds he had survived. The Valkyrie had lived too. Scarred and broken, but alive, he drifted in the silence, the wreckage glowing all around. Below, Earth was safe, its people saved, though they did not yet know it. And above, the legend was born, one man, one jet, who had turned an empire's fleet into its worst nightmare. Rylan closed his eyes, whispering softly to the machine that had become his partner. Maybe legends never die, the Valkyrie hummed faintly, like a heartbeat in the dark, and together, they drifted toward the dawn.